Hi, welcome back to my video. So I'm actually here to share a few tips and also my experience on the recent APTIS Advanced Examination by British Council, which I sat somewhere in September, and the result came back less than a month ago in November. Okay, so this is actually an examination required among all English teachers and lecturers, especially those parked under Ministry of Education, to determine at which CEFR level that actually you belong to. Okay, so let us just briefly look at the CEFR levels. It starts with A1, A2 at beginner level, and then intermediate, B1 and B2, and finally for advanced level it would be C1 and C2 being the highest. So for English teachers and lecturers, we have been advised that we should obtain at least C1 CFR level. Okay, so at least C1. Alright, so especially for polytechnic lecturers, English language lecturers, so that was what we have been told, and hopefully this piece of information is useful for you. Alright, so let us just look. So this was my result that came back, and basically most of my papers for listening, reading, speaking, I managed to obtain the C1 CFR level, while writing was better. I performed at C2 level and my overall CFR grade was at C1. Okay, so some tips. Number one, the order of examination is predetermined. So I'm not quite certain whether you will get to request for a certain order of paper for you to sit first, but for me everything was predetermined. So my advice is be ready for any sequence of the paper, and when you're doing your practices at home or perhaps with your friends, then try different order of the papers so that you are familiar with each one of them. And for me, among all the papers, listening paper was actually the most challenging for me, mainly because there was no specific time limit for each listening question. So everything was grouped together, and because being the over-ambitious me and being extra careful me, I actually listened twice for every question at the earlier section, and because of that I ran out of time at the end, which made me miss out, if I'm not mistaken, 2 to 3 parts of the listening paper. So be careful while you're doing your listening. Make sure you time yourself properly. So second, let us go to reading. I personally enjoyed the reading paper actually. The texts were informative and they were interesting, and just one piece of advice: as you progress towards the end of the paper, the questions can get very tricky, so read carefully. The answers are always in the text. Okay, so you are required to think more critically towards the end of the paper. Okay, so for next, speaking, my tip is know your topics of interest well, and also be well versed with some updated information on current issues, because this can actually help you ace the speaking test better, and relating this information to the questions can actually help you in your performance as well. Okay, so yeah, that's for speaking. For me, I generally enjoyed as well, and by far my most favorite paper is writing. Most of my friends complain that they could not finish the writing paper on time. It is quite true, because for me I managed to complete it just right on the dot, and so because of that, time yourself well. Don't spend too much time thinking, okay, for the points or answers in your question. By right, you should just brainstorm quickly and start writing quite immediately once you have managed to gather your main points and etc. Alright, so don't forget to relate the information in the figures given, the graphs, or the picture, and yes, So lastly is a grammar and vocabulary paper. By far this is the easiest. So if you are very well acquainted with the language, you shouldn't have any problems with grammar and vocabulary. Okay, so overall, I've learned so much through this APTIS Advanced experience. Throughout the course of few weeks before the exam, I exposed myself to a few practices available online, and I also bought a book by Oxford to just familiarize myself with the topics of interest. So for speaking and writing, you're required to actually describe quite a number of things. So make sure you have your adjectives ready, and make sure you're powerful in that area, so that you can always relate and use those words, and not just that your transitional markers and your transitional markers and sequence words. Make sure you do have that handy as well. Okay, so I struggled at first, but upon looking back and reflecting, sitting for this exam has been by far one of the most life-changing experience for me. Okay, because simply because of that experience, I have actually also improved in my own teaching performance, as I tend to understand things from my students' perspective better. So for me, it may cause the examination stress. Well, this is quite general for every exam candidate, but go through it, persevere, and you will definitely come out much better than when you first entered it. And I believe you will definitely gain more at the end of it. Okay, so good luck for your APTIS Advanced exam, and I hope these simple tips are able to help you to ace your journey ahead. Okay, so good luck and bye bye. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.